Good morning. So I am a little slow this morning, like way slow, trying to get caught up. Um, I did something I never do. I slept quarter to seven, so I'm behind a little. But I want to say good morning to everybody. This is Stacy, and we are Loving My Veteran. And today we're going to continue our series on communication. It's a week long, just basic communication skills that hopefully will help you and your veteran get through some of the tough times and just kind of step back and be able to communicate because again we yesterday briefly we talked about um, why relationships fail, and that's a big deal into why our relationships fail. And I'm gonna post it to our page and to our group here in a little bit, kind of like a checkbox for y'all. What causes relationships to fail? And when we look at them, sometimes we can become overwhelmed. I'm like, oh, I checked off all the boxes. I'm doing all of those things, or my relationship has all these things. Well, it doesn't doom you for failure by any means. We can always turn that around with a little positiveness and how we react to that positiveness is a big deal. A few things I need to kind of like housekeeping things I need to get out of the way. First of all, we appreciate everybody who has been supportive of this project. We absolutely cannot say enough about the friends that we've made along the way and the people that we've made along the way. And what's interesting to me is in the past I've ran some businesses, and my veteran and I have our own little business that we do. The thing that is so amazing about this is that for the first time, we're not competing for customers. Um, we've collectively joined with so many people and continue to do that to get the message out because it is a big deal. I keep seeing this reflection, and I thought it was always the sun, but now I realize it's my computer screen and my glasses. So but collectively joining together with people, I cannot begin to sing the praises enough of our dear friends, Libby and Aaron and Shauna at Behind the Service podcast. Every week, they interview and dig in and dive into issues that are facing veterans and what life is like when we come back to um, normal, and how we can benefit them from everything from burn pit registries to taking pledges to prevent suicide, um, to helping spouses and partners and caregivers kind of get through. Um, those women are truly amazing, and I'm blessed to call them my friends. So that is a huge thing that we're finding as we journey forward. Today, I am going to be speaking with affectionately known as Mama Lex, and her son committed suicide. She has formed the Let's Live to Tell Foundation. So I'm going to be speaking with her in detail, and that will be coming out shortly to us. So anyway, I just kind of need to get those things out of the way as we get into communication. One other thing, please, everybody understand that we are here for support. We are not paid professionals. We're not counselors. We're here for support. If you're in a crisis, please, there are numbers out there, the suicide hotline and the um, national abuse hotline. With that said, let's get into communication. So today, we started yesterday talking about communication, and I said something, and I really thought about it this morning, that a lot of times the partners feel like we're being verbally abused because in the rage or in the moment, it's like you're this and you're a piece of crap and you're this and I hate you. And always remember first we laugh, shout at the people that we love the most. But I am never condoning staying and being in an abusive relationship at all. So if true abuse is continuing in your home, get help, get out, get safe. So with that said, I'm not saying that I condone that. I've lived through an abusive first marriage and I don't ever condone it. So I just want to make sure that's clear. But we tend to, when anger happens and we're in that moment, whether it's a PTSD moment or whether it's a normal moment, we tend to push buttons. That's just our nature. That's what we do. So when we push back and we're all in that mode too, sometimes we say hateful things as well. So, the veterans dumped out and said, I hate you. You're not worth anything in my life. And what do? You just turn back at them and say, I hate you and you can get out. I did it a lot. I still do it at times. I think the one thing about doing this series and speaking on this is it kind of gives you your own reality. Where are you in your life, in your relationship? We all slip. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. I'm the least perfect person on the planet. We all slip. And so I had to kind of sit back as I'm writing this stuff and researching this stuff and talking about the stuff from my heart and thinking, girlfriend, you need a reality check. You're not there. So you can reset this and go forward again back to your positive things. So just always remember that. So when we talked about communication, we talked about listening yesterday briefly. Just make sure you're really listening to what they're saying and make sure you hear them correctly. If you don't hear them correctly and something is, and you're in that heat of that moment, just kind of take note of what they said. And then when you're not in the heat of that moment, say, hey, can you explain that to me? You know, I felt attacked. So tell me what you were trying to say because I just felt attacked. And then when they say what they're trying to say, you're no longer attacked and it kind of shows them that what they said to you was and the way they said it was hurtful and harmful and they sometimes they don't really mean it that way, so you have to be able to do that. So now today we're going to continue this communication. You really really need to be aware of their mood. You also need to be aware of your mood. Okay. What are they feeling when they're in their place or they're in that moment or they're in having an episode? We all call it different things. They may not be able to talk to you. It may not be effective. You may not be able to talk to them. Have you ever had a day where you just want to like be, leave me alone? I'm not in the mood to deal with this. I'm not in the mood to, and we do it. So if we can do it, so can they. The problem becomes is that we tend to allow it to become an excuse and they tend to use it as a crutch. And so we have to kind of separate what is this PTSD moment and what is avoidance. And are we just going to say, we're not going to deal with this today because we don't want to deal with this issue that's in our home because we don't want to deal with the consequences or the arguments or the things that may ensue. So we just let it build and build and build and build. And we use it as an excuse. And then they're like, they don't want to deal with it. So they're like, I'm having a moment. So we have to kind of make sure that one, they're not in that moment and we're not in our own moments when we go to communicate effectively about important things because it doesn't do anybody any good. You have to be able to communicate with an open mind and that's the only way it's going to work. So you have to be aware of where they are. Um, you also have to remember that when they're in a place, they can talk a point to you. Okay. And Carl and I have our discussions, and he's in that place and he's talking a point to death. He will look at me and say, insert eye roll. And I do. He's talking this point to death, and I'm like, and then when we talked about it later, he was venting. And yeah, he was venting the same vent over and over and over again. But that was the one thing that was, or one of many things that was bothering him. And he just needed to get it out. And he wanted to be heard, and it wanted somebody to understand it. And he just wanted to talk about it and get it out of his head, out of his head, and out of his chest. And what do? He's venting, which is what we all want. That's what we're here for. We vent on our support groups. We vent in all the other support groups that we go to. There's a lot of venting going on. So we vent, and they want to do the same thing, and their vent may take 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes. And what do? I insert eye roll. And he will tell you that. He'll literally say, insert eye roll. And I do that, and I don't realize I'm doing it. And once you do that, you become disengaged, and they realize that. So even if it is a vent that may be going on and on and on, listen, that's what we're here for. That's what, I hate the word normal relationships, but that's what normal people do. We listen to each other. We have to love them and respect them enough to listen to them when they're venting. No matter how little or insignificant it becomes. I think yesterday in a conversation the two of us had, it's all the little things that just add together until they want to explode. Um, very few marriages end because of a big event. It's all the little things that add up that cause this explosion. So it is important to get that sometimes it is just venting. Um, you need to respect that. You need to respect what you need to. You may not agree with what they're saying. We don't always agree, but we need to learn to respect space for each other. And when you become more respectful of what they're saying, you're going to see that they become more respectful in what you're saying. It is a two-way street. Every action has a reaction. So if every time they speak about something and we insert eye roll, when we have something and we're not engaged in what they're speaking about, and then we have something we want to say, and we can't understand why they won't turn the TV off, or they won't stop playing the video game, or they get up and they walk out of the room. What did we do? We've already told them that what they have to say is not important. So maybe what we have to say isn't important either. So that's kind of, and that happens in every relationship, not just in a PTSD moment. And we use it a lot as an excuse or a crutch. Are there different ways we have to bridge our life to go forward? Yes. But differentiating between what is a PTSD moment and the way we deal with that, and that this is normal in normal relationships, is really important. Um, Communicating when they're in a place or when both of you are angry is never going to work unless whatever you have to say is life threatening at that moment. We have to learn it can wait. Make a list, talk about it later, make a note to yourself, put it in your phone. I'm going to deal with this in a little bit when we're not in a place. But if you're angry over something that happened, or they did, or something you perceived, or whatever, and you're already in this rage when you come in to the conversation, what are you going to do? You're going to shut them down. But at the same token, if somebody came into you that way, what are you going to do? You're going to shut down. I mean, just think about it like it being at work, and your boss comes in and is like, right? And do you really pay attention to that? No, because there's anger and there's rage, and you just shut down. And so the same thing happens here when it comes to communication. Um, when you try to have these conversations when they're in a place or they're in the middle of a rage or anger and you're angry, nothing good will ever come out of it. Nothing good will ever come out of it. You're angry and you tend to throw things up, and they're angry and they tend to throw things up. And then we already know that one of the symptoms, or one of the things that happen with PTSD is anger and rage, not necessarily at you, but at what's going on and their feelings and their feeling of being attacked. We already know that is a way to escalate the situation and escalate things as we go up. So if we already know that's going on and we try to bring into that moment, nothing good will ever come out of it. It's like pouring fuel on a fire. Nothing good will ever come out of that unless it's a life-threatening situation. You know, hey, kids stop breathing. There's somebody, whatever. Coming out of when everybody's angry is never going to work. It is nothing good will ever, ever, ever come out of it. All right, this is probably my hardest thing. The whole thing is about us being honest and raw, and I've told you this is great for me because it's kind of like my life check. Brings me back to reality. Avoid putting them down and saying hurtful things. I do it a lot. I've always done it now. I mean, not just with Carl, with everybody. Um, you look for the bad, and then you throw it up. And I think sometimes it's a way that we use it to defend ourselves and make ourselves feel less wrong. But when you say that, um, are there times we all get frustrated and we want them to get out? And not necessarily get out of our life. At that moment, we may want, if this is the way my life is going to be, I may want you out. But that moment isn't always there. That moment is a moment. And when you think about the good times in that in your life, do you really want them gone? So when I said hurtful things like, well, you can get out, what did that do? What did that do? We're committed to each other. He is my life. He is the person, my person that I chose to spend my life with. And when I say you can get out, 10 minutes before that, I told him, you're the love of my life. I want you, you're the person I choose to walk this walk with. And then we get in this argument, and I say, you can get out, just leave, go. What is that doing? What message is that sending him? Do you believe the fact that I say, I love you and I will do anything and I will always be here for you and I will always be with you and we'll walk through this journey together in one breath. And then the next breath I say, get out when we're mad at each other? Doesn't send a great message. Hard message for me to realize. It's been tough for me to understand that those words hurt. Hurt our relationship. Because trust is important. And if I can tell you in one breath that I love you and I'm not going anywhere and we're in this together, no matter what, and then in a fit of anger and rage, I can say, get out. What did that just do? What did that do for us? What did that do to our trust? Did it plant that seed of doubt in what I have to say? And then once that seed of doubt is planted, then everything I say is a seed of doubt. I know that's tough to swallow. I am not saying that everything that goes on in communication is our fault. But remember, everything we do is causing an action and a reaction. So maybe, just maybe, our actions are part of what's causing that negative reaction. Maybe, just maybe, if we changed our actions, we could change the reaction. And I know that's hard to swallow. Remember, two wrongs don't make it right. You never get anywhere that way. So we have to learn to listen with respect. Does it mean they're going to respect us? No, not in the beginning. They may not. Or it may come across that they don't. But if we learn to live in respect and we learn to listen with respect, then what's going to happen going down the road? Are they going to follow us? Because remember, we talked about that when I yell, he yells. It's a tit for tat situation with us. It's a tit for tat with everybody. It's that way with your kids. Well, they touch me, they touch me first, and they have my toilet. We do it. We live our life that way. We don't, it's hard to accept blame. It's hard to accept responsibility. It's hard to own it for any of us. How many times do you hear, why should I do it if they're not going to? In every life, in every one of our life's journeys, why do we hear, we listen to, and we've heard it, why should I be the one if they're not willing? Because it's what works. Because life is not a tit for tat situation. Because when you go in positive, and it's hard, girls, guys, I slide all the time. And it's interesting because I look back over the past week and we have some personal things going on that have nothing to do with this at all. Just a lot on our plate that we have to deal with personally in other events in other areas of our lives. And we're both worried about them. So that's just kind of a thing. And it happens to everybody. So, first part of last week, it was like we were both at each other. And then I kind of started listening to what I said, what I've been saying, and coming up with these topics and talking points for this made me realize, Stacey, you're doing everything wrong that you say to do. Go back to communicating this way. And I have, and things are better. We haven't had the arguments. We haven't had the explosive moments. Have we disagreed? Yeah, we do a lot. I mean, like normal people, you know, there's certain things and we just don't always agree on. But we learn to compromise and go forward. But people don't have to always agree. That's just not the way life is. So we have to do that. Again, it's gonna be hard. It is totally different from what we're used to, especially when we've done it for so long and we're hurt and we're angry. So it's just relearning to communicate, relearning to do what we need to do. And then I'm going to tell you that all of the stuff we're talking about, and the tips and the suggestions, and I don't care where you're getting them from. I'm just glad everybody is reaching out to get these suggestions and what works for you and what will work for your relationship, because everything that works for us is not going to work for you. I'm hoping that you try different things from various people and advice, and that's why we come together, is to collaborate and communicate and talk about what works for me and my mindset. And um, but I'm going to tell you right now, none of this is going to work. One, you don't really want the relationship to work. If you at your core do not want this relationship to work, it's not going to. If you're not sincere in your efforts and you are not really willing to try to make a change using whatever you've heard or seen or done, If you're not sincere in that and really wanting a change in how things are going on in your life, it's never going to work. I don't care what method, what advice you follow. If you're not sincere, it's not going to work. So if you've already checked out and there is no hope in unchecking out, and you're like, well, I'll try this, but it's not going to work. It's not. But if you are sincere in your relationship and you're like, I will try anything to make things better for us as a family, and you put forth the effort and you're sincere, it'll work. And this method may not work, but something will. And you just have to keep searching. It's not going to work if you're not honest about your feelings. You have to own up to anger. You have to own up to your own rage. You have to be honest that what they say hurts, and tell them at the appropriate time. In the middle of an argument, in the middle of screaming, in the middle of whatever you argue, or storming off in the other room and slamming the door and say, but you didn't listen to me. It's not going to work that way. You got to be honest about your feelings to them. That communication has to be honest. And you got to accept the fact that it is okay to disagree. It is okay to disagree. Completely okay to disagree. We're going to disagree. It is going to happen. That is the way the real world works. It's okay to disagree with each other. It's not okay to belittle each other. So it's okay. Um, you got to be real. You got to realize that you decide to make some changes. Your partner may not buy into it on day one. They may not buy into it on day two or week two. But as your reactions and your actions start to evolve to become this more positive mindset, um, sorry, as it tries to evolve to become a more positive mindset, you're gonna find that they're gonna come on board because actions cause a reaction. And if your actions change, then you can change the reaction. So that's where we are today. Join us tomorrow for the next step in where we're at in this series on communication. We're going to give you some real tips and how to go forward and what was working for me and some of the other people, what you can try, what you can think about. Again, I cannot begin to thank the people who have supported this. We are reaching so many people. And our goal is to save one life. Our goal is for every veteran to feel like they have a name and that they're not a number. Our goal is to make every spouse and partner feel like they're a name and not just a number. That's what our goal is. That's what our objective is here. Tomorrow morning we'll be on at 9. At 10 o'clock, please flip over to the Zoom meeting with Behind the Service. We'll post that link here as well later today. We do coffee, conversation, and collaboration. And girl, there's one that you can come in your jammies to. It is perfectly fine. It is so relaxed and so uplifting, and we do that. And on Thursday night at 7, we will do a Zoom for everybody on Let's Talk. It's just where we come together, and you're not just going to hear me talking. We come together and have these great meetings, talk about our experiences, our frustrations, what's working for us, give suggestions to each other. And again, it's not just me and our organization talking about what's going on. It is other spouses and veterans talking about how they see things and giving great suggestions and alternatives and just saying you're not alone and letting you really matter. So join us for that. Have a great day. We have so much going on. We're working on the website today. Hopefully, get that straight. And just so much positive stuff going on. Be blessed, and we will see you tomorrow.